The Lagos skyline glittered like scattered diamonds against the midnight sky. From the 42nd floor of the Okonkwo Tower, Chima Okonkwo stood at his floor-to-ceiling window, watching the city that had made him a billionaire. At 45, he'd built an empire from nothing. Okonkwo Industries, a tech conglomerate worth 50 billion naira, was his life's work, his legacy, his identity. But in exactly 24 hours, he could lose it all. "Sir, we've completed the final verification," Biodun, his chief technology officer, announced from across the sprawling executive office. All 847 pages. Every document cross-referenced. Every digital signature validated. Every blockchain hash verified. Chima turned from the window, his expensive Italian shoes clicking against the marble floor. And the CAC filing system? Uploaded and ready for submission. We just need your authorization code at 2 p.m. tomorrow. Biodun wiped his tired eyes. The entire tech team had been working for 72 hours straight. "Sir, we've checked everything 100 times. There's no way Obinna can challenge this." Obinna, the name tasted like poison in Chima's mouth. His former business partner, now his bitterest rival. 3 years ago, they'd had a falling out over company direction. Obinna had tried to push Okonkwo Industries into cryptocurrency scams, promising quick billions. Chima had refused, choosing ethical tech solutions instead. Obinna had left, vowing revenge. And now, through a legal technicality, a clause in their original partnership agreement that neither had remembered, Obinna had found his opportunity. If Chima couldn't prove absolute ownership with flawless documentation by 2 p.m. tomorrow, the Corporate Affairs Commission would recognize Obinna's claim to 51% of the company. "Get some rest, Biodun," Chima said, clapping his CTO on the shoulder. "Tomorrow we end this." After Biodun left, Chima made one more round through the office. It was past 11 p.m., but he couldn't go home yet. Too much nervous energy. He walked through the silent corridors, past the innovation lab where his team had developed Nigeria's first homegrown AI assistant, past the server room humming with the digital heartbeat of his empire. He rounded a corner and nearly collided with a woman pushing a cleaning cart. "Sorry, Oga." She jumped back, eyes downcast. "I no see you, sir." Chima barely glanced at her. Just another cleaner. The building employed dozens of them. Invisible people who kept the gleaming offices spotless while the important people slept. He grunted acknowledgement and continued walking. The woman watched him go, then quietly returned to her work. Her name was Ngozi, though Chima Okonkwo didn't know it. Didn't care to know it. To him, she was just part of the furniture, as invisible as the potted plants or the abstract art on the walls. But Ngozi saw everything. At 32, she'd learned to be invisible. It was safer that way. Easier. She pushed her cart into the main conference room, where stacks of documents covered the long mahogany table. Important papers, she knew. She'd overheard the executives talking in worried voices all week. She began cleaning carefully around them, not touching, just dusting the edges of the table. Ngozi had once dreamed of working in a room like this, not as a cleaner, but as an engineer. She'd been a computer science student at the University of Lagos, top of her class in data analysis and systems architecture. Her professors had called her brilliant. Her future had been golden. Then her husband died. Teo had been a software developer, charming and brilliant. They'd met in a coding competition. She'd beaten him by half a second, and he'd fallen in love with her right there. They'd married young, had a beautiful son they named Chikwudi, and built dreams together. Then came the car accident. Teo died instantly. The medical bills for his final days, the funeral costs, and the debts he'd hidden from her, it all came crashing down. Ngozi had been in her final year, just 1 year from her degree. She dropped out. No choice, no money, no time. She had a 6-month-old baby and her elderly mother to support. That was 6 years ago. Now she worked 2 jobs. Data entry clerk during the day at a small firm in Yaba. Cleaner at night in this temple of technology and wealth. Her son Chikwudi was 6 now, bright and curious, living with her mother in their small room in Ajigunal, while Ngozi worked herself to exhaustion. She pushed the memories away and focused on cleaning. The mop, swished across the pristine floor. The conference room was her last stop before she could go home, catch 3 hours of sleep, then start her day job at 7 a.m. As she wiped down the table, careful not to disturb the documents, something caught her eye. One page had a water ring. Someone's coffee cup had left a mark. She carefully lifted it to clean underneath, and as she did, her gaze fell on the text. Transaction reference, TX, 2023-0315A. Her hand paused. Something about that reference code triggered her old training. 6 years might have passed since she'd last written code or analyzed data systems, but some knowledge never truly leaves you. She glanced at the next document in the stack. Same transaction, same date, but the reference code read TX 2024-0315A. Ngozi's heart skipped. That wasn't right. Transaction references were supposed to be unique identifiers. The same transaction couldn't have 2 different year codes. It would create a database conflict, a blockchain verification failure. She set down her cleaning cloth and looked closer, careful not to move anything. Yes, both documents clearly reference the same transaction, the March 15 transfer of intellectual property rights. But one was coded to 2023, the other to 2024. Her mind raced. This was a critical error. If these documents were submitted to any verification system, the mismatch would be flagged as data manipulation, potential fraud. But surely someone had noticed? This wasn't her business. She was just a cleaner. These were important people with expensive educations and fancy titles. They knew what they were doing, didn't they? Ngozi picked up her mop and continued cleaning, trying to ignore the nagging feeling in her gut. She'd learned to ignore many things over the past 6 years. Learned to be small, to be quiet, to be invisible. But as she worked, she thought about Teo. He'd always said, intelligence isn't about what you know. It's about what you do with what you know. She thought about her son, Chikwudi, asking her every day when she'd be a computer lady again instead of a cleaner. She'd promise him, one day, baby, one day, Mama will work with computers again. She thought about the 2,000 people who worked in this building. People like her, security guards, janitors, cooks, drivers. People who would lose everything if this company failed. At 2 a.m., Ngozi made a decision that would change her life. She pulled out a piece of paper from her cleaning cart, a requisition form she used for supplies, and carefully wrote on the back, Sir, I notice an inconsistency in the transaction reference codes on the conference table documents. Document reference TX, 2023-0315, ANTX, 2024-0315. Both refer to the same March 15 transaction, but have different year identifiers. This creates a database integrity issue that will fail blockchain verification. I apologize if I am wrong, or if this has already been addressed. I just thought you should know. Respectfully, Ngozi Night Cleaning Staff. Her hand trembled as she placed the note on top of the document stack. What was she doing? They'd probably laugh at her, fire her, mock her presumption. But she'd done it, for better or worse. She finished cleaning and pushed her cart out of the conference room at 3 a.m. As she waited for the service elevator, she looked back at the gleaming office, at the world she'd once dreamed of belonging to. Then she went home to her small room, to her sleeping son, to 3 hours of rest before starting it all over again. At 6 a.m., Chima Okonkwo returned to his office, having gotten only 4 hours of anxious sleep at home. His wife Amara had kissed him goodbye, whispering, "You'll win. You always do." He hoped she was right. He entered the conference room to do one final review before the filing. Everything looked perfect. His team had been meticulous. Then he saw the note. He picked it up, read it, and his first reaction was irritation. A cleaner had touched his documents, left a note about database integrity. What would a janitor know about blockchain verification? He crumpled the paper, ready to throw it away. But something stopped him, a memory of his father, who'd built the first version of this company from a single room in Mushin. His father had always said, "Pride makes you deaf, Chima. The day you stop listening to everyone is the day you start failing." With a sigh of annoyance, Chima smoothed out the note and picked up the 2 documents the cleaner had mentioned. His blood ran cold. TX 2023-0315A. TX 2024-0315A. Same transaction. Different years. No, he whispered. No, no, no. He grabbed his phone with shaking hands and called Biodun. Get here now, he shouted. We have a catastrophic error. As he waited, Chima stared at the note from the cleaner. A woman whose name he didn't even know had just saved him from losing everything. Or had she simply discovered the mistake too late to fix it? The countdown was on. 18 hours until the deadline. And Chima Okonkwo's empire hung in the balance. Wait, what did the cleaner see? A billionaire's entire company hangs by a thread, and his tech team missed something. If you're already hooked, smash that like button and subscribe to AfricanTales by Zion. Drop a comment. Do you think a cleaner can really save a billionaire? Next chapter reveals what she found, and it's shocking. Share this video. Turn on notifications. Ngozi woke to her phone alarm at 6:30 a.m., her body screaming for more sleep. 3 hours. She'd gotten 3 hours of rest after leaving Okonkwo Tower at 3:30 a.m. and traveling the hour-long journey back to Ajigunle. Mama, I'm hungry, came the small voice from beside her. She turned to see Chikwudi's bright eyes staring at her. 6 years old, smart as a whip, and a splitting image of his father. Every time she looked at him, she saw Teo smile. Give Mama 5 minutes, baby, she whispered, pulling him close. Their room was tiny, just enough space for a bed, a small wardrobe, and Chikwudi's corner with his few toys and books. Her mother slept in the adjoining room, separated by a thin curtain. Ngozi's entire world fit in 2 rooms in a crowded Ajigunle compound where neighbors lived on top of each other, where the generator noise never stopped, and where water came twice a week if you were lucky. But it was home, and it was all she could afford. She got up, prepared Gary and groundnuts for Chikwudi's breakfast, and got ready for her day job. By 7:45 a.m., she was on a bus to Yaba, squeezed between other exhausted workers heading to their own struggles. At DataSync Solutions, her day job, Ngozi sat in a cramped office with 15 other data entry clerks, typing numbers into spreadsheets for 8 hours straight. The work was mind-numbing for someone who'd once written complex algorithms and designed database architectures, but paid 45,000 naira a month, barely enough for food and rent. The cleaning job at Okonkwo Tower paid another 35,000 naira monthly. Combined, she made 80,000 naira, just enough to survive, never enough to get ahead, never enough to save for finishing her degree. She was trapped in a cycle of exhaustion and poverty, her computer science dreams buried under the weight of survival. Ngozi, why are you smiling? Her colleague patients asked during lunch break. Was she smiling? Ngozi touched her face. Surprised. I did something bold last night, she admitted. Man trouble? Patients grinned. No, Ngozi laughed. Work trouble. I left a note for my boss at the cleaning job. Pointed out a mistake in some important documents. Patience's eyes widened. You did what? Girl, are you crazy? They'll fire you for touching their papers. The smile faded from Ngozi's face. Patience was right. What had she been thinking? She'd overstepped, violated the invisible barrier between them and us. Cleaners weren't supposed to read documents, weren't supposed to understand technical language, weren't supposed to have opinions. I was just trying to help, Ngozi said quietly. Help yourself into unemployment, Patience muttered. Rich people don't like poor people telling them what to do, even when we're right. The rest of the workday dragged with new anxiety. What if they really did fire her? She couldn't afford to lose that income. Chikwudi needed new school shoes. Her mother needed medication for her arthritis. The rent was due in 2 weeks. By the time she left DataSync at 6 p.m., Ngozi had convinced herself she'd made a terrible mistake. She went home, fed Chikwudi, helped with his homework. He was learning Basic Addition, and his excitement over numbers made her heart ache with memories of her own love for mathematics and logic. Mama, when will you teach me about computers? He asked, like he did every week. Soon, baby, when Mama has more time. But time was the one thing she didn't have. By 9 p.m., She was back on a bus to Victoria Island, heading to Okonkwo Tower for another night of cleaning. As she entered the building, the security guard, Uncle Joseph, who always greeted her kindly, had a strange expression. "Ngozi, Oga been looking for you," he said. Her heart dropped. "Which Oga?" "The big Oga, Mr. Chima himself. He asked your name and everything." Ngozi's hands went numb. This was it. She was fired. Worse. Maybe they'd accuse her of something. Rich people could make problems for poor people. She'd heard stories. "He say make you go to 42nd floor when you come," Uncle Joseph continued. "He'd be like say nah serious matter." Ngozi wanted to run. Just turn around and disappear. But where would she go? She needed this job. With trembling legs, she took the service elevator. Not to the basement where cleaning supplies were stored, but up to the 42nd floor, the executive level, the place where people like her never went. The elevator doors opened to a world of cream leather, modern art, and floor-to-ceiling windows, showing all of Lagos spread out like a glittering carpet below. A woman in an expensive suit looked up from a sleek desk. "Yes, I was told to come here. I'm Ngozi, the cleaner." The woman's expression shifted, surprise, then something that might have been respect. "Wait here." Minutes crawled by. Ngozi stood awkwardly, very aware of her faded uniform, her cheap shoes, the gap between her world and this one. Then a door opened, and a tall man emerged. Chima Okonkwo. She recognized him from the company newsletter. In person, he was more imposing. Expensive clothes, commanding presence, the kind of man who expected obedience. "You're Ngozi?" His voice was sharp. "Yes, sir." She couldn't meet his eyes. "You left a note about database errors." "I'm sorry, sir. I shouldn't have touched." "Where'd you learn about blockchain verification?" he interrupted. The question surprised her. "Sir, your note mentioned database integrity and blockchain verification. Those aren't terms, eh?" He paused, seeming to choose his words carefully. A cleaner typically knows. Ngozi's old pride flickered. She might be poor, might be working two menial jobs, but she wasn't stupid. "I studied computer science at University of Lagos. Sir, I didn't finish, but I learned data systems." Chima's eyebrows rose. "You studied at Unilag?" "Yes, sir. I was in final year when my husband died. I had to drop out." Something shifted in his expression. Not quite sympathy, but at least interest. "Come to my office." He led her into a massive room dominated by a huge desk and those incredible windows. Another man was there, younger, stressed-looking, surrounded by laptops and tablets. "This is Biodun, my CTO," Chima said. "Biodun, this is Ngozi. She's the one who found the error." Biodun looked up, confused. "The cleaner?" "The computer science student," Chima corrected, and Ngozi felt a small spark of warmth at the acknowledgement. "Ngozi," Chima said, sitting on the edge of his desk, "tell me exactly what you saw." She took a breath and explained, the technical language coming back like muscle memory. "The transaction reference codes don't match the year identifiers. TX 2023-0315. It should be the only code for the March 15th, 2023 transaction. But there's also a TX 2024-0315, a referring to the same transaction. When these documents go through CAC's verification system, the blockchain will flag the inconsistency as potential data manipulation." Biodun's face had gone pale. "She's right. Oh, God, she's absolutely right. We missed it," Chima said quietly. "Our entire team missed it. Every automated check, every manual review, we all missed it. Because it's a human error in a machine process," Ngozi found herself saying. "Your system probably auto-generated the second reference when someone re-uploaded the document. The algorithm saw a new upload date and created a new code. Your verification software wouldn't catch it, because both codes are valid formats. But they can't both be true." Both men stared at her. "You really are a computer scientist," Biodun said with something like awe. Chima pulled out his phone, checked the time. "We have 16 hours until the deadline." If we submit with this error, Obina's team will run their own verification after the deadline. They'll catch the mismatch and use it to prove our filing is fraudulent. Can we fix it in time? Biodun asked. We have to. Chima turned to Ngozi. How would you fix it? The question hung in the air. He was asking her, not as a cleaner, as an engineer. Ngozi's mind raced, and suddenly she wasn't in this intimidating office anymore. She was back in her university lab, solving problems, building systems, being the person she'd trained to be. You need to delete the 2024 reference from the database entirely, she said. Then regenerate the hash codes for every linked document. But you can't just do it manually. You need to write a script that crawls through the entire document chain and updates every instance. Otherwise, you'll have orphan references that will still fail verification. Biodun was already typing. That'll take hours to write and test. Not if two people write it. Ngozi heard herself say, I can help. Both men looked at her again. A cleaner, offering to help fix a 50 billion naira problem. Chima studied her for a long moment. Then he made a decision that would change everything. Biodun, give her a workstation, he said. Ngozi, you're not cleaning tonight. Tonight, you're saving my company. No way. She found a database error that the entire tech team missed, and now she's going to help fix it. If you can't believe this, smash that like button and subscribe to AfricanTales by Zion. Comment below. Would you hire a cleaner with hidden tech skills? Next chapter shows what happens when she sits at that computer. And OMG, you need to see this. Share this video. Turn on notifications. Ngozi's hands trembled as Biodun set up a workstation for her in the executive tech lab. It had been 6 years since she'd sat at a professional computer setup. 6 years since she'd written code that mattered. 6 years since anyone had looked at her and seen an engineer instead of invisible labor. The monitor glowed to life. A 32-inch curved display that probably cost more than 3 months of her combined salaries. The keyboard was mechanical, responsive, beautiful. For a moment, she just stared at it, overwhelmed. You okay? Biodun asked gently. Aye. Ngozi's voice caught. I haven't done this in so long. What if I can't remember? What if I'm not good enough anymore? Chima, who'd been on his phone coordinating with his legal team, walked over. Ngozi, look at me. She met his eyes, intense but not unkind. You spotted an error that my entire team missed, he said. You understood the problem in minutes. You know what needs to be done. Trust yourself. Those words, trust yourself, landed like a key in a lock. Something inside Ngozi clicked open. She'd been invisible for so long. She'd forgotten she was capable of being seen. She rolled up her sleeves, adjusted the chair, and let her fingers find the keyboard. It was like coming home. Okay, she said, her voice steadier now. Show me the database architecture. For the next hour, Biodun walked her through Okonkwo Industries' data systems. It was complex, beautifully designed. Actually, whoever had built the original framework knew their craft. But like all large systems, it had grown organically over time, with patches and updates that created small vulnerabilities, like the auto-generated reference codes that had created their current nightmare. The problem is deeper than I thought, Ngozi said, scrolling through layers of interconnected databases. It's not just the CAC filing. The error has propagated through your entire audit trail. Every document that references the March 15 transaction has duplicate hash codes now. Chima's jaw tightened. How many documents? Biodun ran a query. 247. Sweet Jesus. Chima breathed. We have to manually correct all of them? Not manually. Ngozi said, her mind already building the solution. We write a reconciliation script. It identifies every instance of the 2024 reference code, deletes it, then regenerates the proper blockchain hash for each affected document. The script does in 30 minutes what would take us 3 days manually. Can you write that script? Chima asked. Ngozi's fingers were already flying across the keyboard. I'm already writing it. She fell into the rhythm of coding, that beautiful flow state where the world disappeared, and there was only logic, only problems and solutions, only the clean architecture of well-written code. It was like breathing after being underwater for 6 years. Beside her, Biodun watched her work with growing amazement. You're using Python with PostgreSQL integration? It's the cleanest approach for database reconciliation, Ngozi replied, not looking up. And I'm adding error logging so we can track every change in real time. This is really good code, Biodun said, like professional grade. I was top of my class in data architecture, Ngozi said simply, then added quieter, before everything fell apart. Chima pulled up a chair beside them. What happened? How does someone with this talent end up cleaning floors? Ngozi's hands paused on the keyboard. For a moment, she considered deflecting. But these men were trusting her with their billion-naira problem. They deserved the truth. My husband, Teo, was a software developer, she said, resuming her typing. We met in a hackathon, got married in our 3rd year, had our son Chikwudi just before final year exams. She smiled at the memory. We were going to graduate together, start our own tech company. We had so many dreams. Her smile faded. Then Teo had a car accident. He was coming back from a client meeting in a Badon. A truck driver fell asleep at the wheel. Her voice went flat, mechanical, the only way she could tell the story without breaking. He died 3 days later in the hospital. The bills wiped out our savings. Then I discovered he'd taken loans I didn't know about to fund a side project. Suddenly I had a 6-month-old baby, hospital debt, funeral costs, and loan sharks demanding payment. The office was quiet except for the soft clicking of her keyboard. I tried to continue school, she continued. But Chikwudi needed formula, diapers, a babysitter. My mother moved in to help, but she has arthritis. She needed medication. I couldn't afford school fees and survival, so I dropped out 3 months before graduation. Couldn't the university help? Biodun asked. Special circumstances? Ngozi laughed bitterly. Maybe if I'd had connections. But I was just another poor student who couldn't pay. They were sympathetic, but firm. No fees, no final exams, no degree. She hit enter, and lines of code scrolled across the screen. So I got work. Data entry paid better than retail. Cleaning paid even better, especially night shifts. I've been doing both for 6 years, sending every naira I can to my mother for Chikwidi's upkeep, barely surviving, telling myself, one day I'll finish my degree. She looked up at them. But one day never comes when you're poor. You're too busy surviving to ever get ahead. Chima was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, Your husband will be proud of you. The unexpected kindness made Ngozi's eyes sting. She blinked rapidly, focusing on the code. He'd probably laugh at me. All that talent and you're mopping floors. But what choice did I have? You had a choice tonight, Chima pointed out. You could have ignored the error. Not your problem. Not your business. But you spoke up anyway. I couldn't just walk away, Ngozi said. I know what it's like when companies fail. My father lost his job when I was 12. Company went bankrupt. We struggled for years. I kept thinking about all the people who work here. The security guards, the janitors, the cafeteria staff. If this company falls, we fall first. She finished a section of code and ran a test. Green text confirmed. And no errors. Plus, she added with a small smile, I miss this. God, I miss this so much. Building things at work. Solving problems that matter. Being more than just invisible. You were never invisible, Biodun said. We just weren't looking. Over the next 3 hours, they worked as a team. Ngozi wrote the core reconciliation script, while Biodun handled the system integration, and Chima coordinated with the legal team about timing. At 2 a.m., almost exactly 24 hours after Ngozi had first spotted the error, the script was ready. This is it, Biodun said, his hand hovering over the execute button. Once we run this, it'll cascade to the entire database. If there's any error in the code, there's no error, Ngozi said with quiet confidence. I've checked it 6 times. It'll work. Chima looked at her. You're sure? She met his gaze. I'm sure. Then run it, Chima said to Biodun. Bio done hit execute. For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then the screen erupted with activity. Green text scrolling rapidly as the script crawled through the database, identifying errors, deleting corrupted 2024 references, regenerating proper hash codes, verifying integrity, logging every change. 247 documents. 16 minutes. 0 errors. When the final line appeared, reconciliation complete. All systems verified. The three of them sat in stunned silence. Then Biodun started laughing. It worked! Oh my God, it actually worked. Chima let out a breath he'd been holding for hours. We can file now. We can beat the deadline. But Ngozi was staring at the screen with wonder. She'd done it. After 6 years of dormancy, her skills hadn't just survived, they'd thrived. She was still good at this. Still brilliant at this. She'd forgotten who she was. Tonight, she remembered. Ngozi, Chima said, and something in his tone made her look up. You just saved my company. 50 billion naira worth of assets, 2,000 jobs, my family's legacy. All of it would have been gone if not for you. I just wrote a script, she said modestly. You did more than that. Chima stood, pacing with barely contained energy. You saw what others missed. You spoke up when you could have stayed silent. You trusted your knowledge even after years of being told you're just a cleaner. He stopped, facing her. Do you know how rare that is? That kind of courage. Ngozi didn't know what to say. It's 2:30 a.m., Chima continued. The filing will happen at 8 a.m. Biodun will handle the submission. But before that happens, I want you to know something. He pulled out his phone. My company has a scholarship program for employees pursuing further education. As of right now, you're an employee of Okonkwo Industries. And that scholarship, it covers university fees. Ngozi's breath caught. Sir, I don't. You're finishing your degree, Chima said firmly. Final year, University of Lagos, Computer Science. Full sponsorship. And when you graduate, you have a job here. Not cleaning. Engineering. The words didn't feel real. Ngozi looked at Biodun, who was grinning. He's serious. And for the record, I'll fight anyone who says you haven't earned it. But... Ngozi's voice shook. What about tonight? My cleaning shift is over, Chima said. You're never cleaning another floor in this building. Unless you want to, which I somehow doubt. 6 years of exhaustion, of invisibility, of dreams deferred, all crashed over Ngozi at once. She put her face in her hands and wept. Not sad tears, not defeated tears. Tears of relief, of recognition, of resurrection. She was seen. She was valued. She was coming back to life. What? She fixed it, and now he's sending her back to university. Full scholarship, a job waiting. If your mind is blown, smash that like button and subscribe to AfricanTales by Zion. Drop a comment. Could you have spoken up like she did? Next chapter shows the filing day and what Obinna tries. It's intense. Share this video. Turn on notifications. At 6:30 a.m., Ngozi stood outside her small room in Ajigunal, staring at her phone in disbelief. She just sent her mother a message. Mama, something happened at work. Something good. I'll explain when I get home. She hadn't slept. After leaving Okonkwo Tower at 4 a.m., with Chima's scholarship promise and Biodun's grateful hug, she'd been too wired with adrenaline and hoped to sleep. Instead, she'd sat with her sleeping son, watching him breathe, thinking about the future that had just opened up before them. University. A real job. A way out of the poverty trap. It felt like a dream. But the email on her phone was real enough. A formal offer letter from Okonkwo Industries' HR department, processed overnight at Chima's insistence. She was now officially a junior data analyst, with a salary of 350,000 naira monthly, more than 4 times what she'd been making from both her jobs combined. She could breathe. For the first time in 6 years, she could actually breathe. But first, they had to make the filing deadline. At Okonkwo Tower, Chima hadn't slept either. He'd gone home briefly at 5 a.m. to shower and change, telling his wife Amara everything that had happened. A cleaner saved your company? Amara had said, amazed. A computer scientist who was cleaning to survive. Chima had corrected. I walked past her dozens of times and never saw her. Never asked her name. Never wondered if there was more to her story. He'd shaken his head. My father would be ashamed of me. Your father would be proud that you listened, Amara had said, kissing his forehead. That you gave her a chance when you could have dismissed her. Now, at 7:45 a.m., Chima sat in his office with Biodun and the legal team. Everything was ready. The corrected documents had been compiled. The blockchain verification showed perfect integrity. All 847 pages were flawless. The CAC office opened at 8 a.m. They'd submit the moment the system went live. At 7:50 a.m., Biodun's phone rang. He answered, listened, and his face went pale. What? Chima demanded. The CAC filing system is down, Biodun said. Technical maintenance. Unexpected. Won't be back online until 11 a.m. Chima's heart sank. That gives us only 3 hours before the 2 p.m. deadline. What if there are submission queues? What if processing takes longer than expected? His head of legal, Bar, Chioma, checked her tablet. Sir, the regulations are clear. Documents must be submitted and processed by 2 p.m. Just uploading them is enough. They need to clear the verification system. How long does that usually take? Chima asked, though he dreaded the answer. Normally, 2 to 3 hours. But if there's a backlog from the system being down, she didn't need to finish. They all understood. They could still lose everything. We need a backup plan, Chima said. Chioma, can we file physically? Paper documents at the CAC office in Abuja? Physical filing still requires digital verification before approval, she replied. It's the same system bottleneck. Biodun was typing frantically. I'm checking the CAC system status. Sir, this isn't random maintenance. Someone triggered a DDoS attack on their servers. Chima's jaw clenched. Obina. Has to be, Biodun confirmed. He's trying to run out the clock. If the system comes back at 11 a.m. and there's a queue, plus processing time, we might not make it even with perfect documents. For a moment, Chima felt defeat creeping in. They'd done everything right. Fixed the error. Prepared flawlessly. But if they couldn't physically submit because of the cyber attack, his phone rang. Unknown number. Mr. Chima? A woman's voice, nervous but determined. This is Adana, Ngozi's cousin. She gave me your number. Chima's mind raced. Yes, Adana. Ngozi mentioned you work at CAC. Yes, sir. I'm a processing clerk in the corporate registry division. I heard about the system being down. She paused. Sir, I think I can help. 30 minutes later, Chima and Biodun were in a car racing to the CAC office in Abuja. Chima had chartered a private flight. They'd arrived in 40 minutes, a journey that normally took hours. Adana met them at a side entrance at 9:30 a.m. She was young, professional, with Ngozi's same sharp eyes. Thank you for this, Chima said. Ngozi is family. Adana replied simply. She told me what you did for her. The scholarship, the job. Nobody's ever given her a chance before. Her eyes glistened. When she called me crying this morning, happy crying, I knew I had to help however I could. She led them through back corridors to the processing center. The main system was indeed down. Screens showed error messages while frustrated IT staff tried to restore services. The system should be up by 11, Adana said. But when it comes back online, there will be hundreds of submissions in the queue. You could be waiting hours for verification. What do you suggest? Chima asked. There's a priority processing track for national security and economic emergency cases. Adana explained. It requires director approval, but it bypasses a queue. Can we qualify? Your company employs 2,000 people. If it fails, that's a significant economic impact. I spoke to my director, Mr. Obi. He's willing to consider it, but he needs to meet you personally. She brought them to a small office where a distinguished older man sat reviewing documents. Mr. Obi looked up as they entered. Mr. Chima Okonkwo, he said, standing to shake hands. Adana tells me you have an urgent filing. Chima quickly explained the situation. The legal challenge, the deadline, the cyber attack. He showed the corrected documents on his tablet. Mr. Obi reviewed them carefully. Everything appears in order, but priority processing is rarely approved. Why should I make an exception? Because 2,000 families depend on this company, Chima said. Security guards, clerks, janitors, engineers, all of them will lose their livelihoods if my rival succeeds. This isn't about me. It's about them. Mr. Obi studied him. You know what I find interesting, Mr. Chima? Adana tells me a cleaner in your building discovered the error that would have cost you everything. A computer scientist who was cleaning to survive. Chima corrected. Yes. And you gave her a scholarship? A job. She earned it. Most wealthy men wouldn't have listened to a cleaner. Most would have dismissed her note without reading it. Mr. Obi smiled slightly. My mother was a cleaner, worked in banks and offices her whole life. She was brilliant with numbers, could calculate complex interest rates in her head, but nobody ever asked. Nobody ever looked. He closed the tablet. I'll approve priority processing. Not for you, Mr. Chima. For that cleaner who had the courage to speak up. At 11:15 a.m., the CAC system came back online. The queue immediately flooded with submissions. 347 companies trying to file simultaneously. But Okonkwo Industries documents went through priority processing. Mr. Obi himself oversaw the verification, with Adana handling the technical checks. By 12:30 p.m., the blockchain verification was complete. Green lights across the board. By 1 p.m., the final stamps and approvals were in place. At 1:15 p.m., Chima received the official confirmation. Okonkwo Industries' ownership filing was complete, verified, and legally binding. 45 minutes before the deadline, Chima called his office. Chioma, it's done. We're secure. The cheers from the legal team echoed through the phone. Then he called Ngozi, who was still home, too nervous to do anything but wait. We made it, he said simply. He heard her burst into tears. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Ngozi, you saved this company. Everything that happened today, the priority processing, Adana's help, Mr. Obi's approval, all stem from you having the courage to leave that note. Never forget that. At 1:58 p.m., in a law office across town, Obinenwafer sat with his legal team, confident and smug. 2 minutes until the deadline. No way Chima had managed to file in time, especially with the system delays Obina had arranged. At 1:59 p.m., his lawyer's phone pinged. Then again, then continuously. The lawyer's face went white. Sir, Okonkwo Industries filed at 1:15 p.m. Full verification. It's legally binding. Obina grabbed the phone. There it was, the CAC official record. Complete. Verified. Approved. No, he whispered. No, I paid for that DDoS attack. The system was supposed to stay down until 2 p.m. His lawyer stepped back. Sir, I don't think you should say things like that out loud. But Obina wasn't listening. He was staring at the screen, at his failed coup, at the 50 billion naira slipping through his fingers. Chima Okonkwo had won. That evening, back at Okonkwo Tower, Chima gathered his entire executive team. Biodun, Chioma, the department heads, everyone who'd worked frantically to fix the crisis. I want to introduce someone, Chima said. This is Ngozi. Many of you have seen her cleaning these offices. What you didn't know is that she's a computer scientist from University of Lagos who spotted the critical error that would have cost us everything. The room was silent, attentive. Ngozi will be completing her degree this semester, on company scholarship, and joining our data analysis team when she graduates. He looked at her. She's proof that talent doesn't wear a uniform. That genius can be found anywhere if we're humble enough to look. The room erupted in applause. Ngozi stood there, overwhelmed, as these powerful people clapped for her. For her. Biodun stepped forward. Ngozi, I'm going to need your help designing our new error-checking protocols. Clearly, our current systems aren't good enough. Think you can handle that? She smiled through tears. I can handle that. Later, as the celebration continued, Ngozi slipped away to call her mother and son. Mama, I'm coming home, she said, and I have so much to tell you. You sound different. her mother said. Happy. I am happy, Mama. For the first time in 6 years, I'm happy. Tell Chikwutia's mama is going back to university. Tell him we're going to be okay. She hung up and looked out at Lagos, the city that had broken her, that had buried her dreams, that had forced her to survive by being invisible. But she wasn't invisible anymore. She was seen. She was valued. She was rising. And this was only the beginning. No, Obina tried to crash the system, but they made it with minutes to spare, and it was all because of Ngozi. If you're on the edge of your seat, smash that like button and subscribe to AfricanTales by Zion. Comment. Would you have had Ngozi's courage to speak up? Next chapter reveals her final transformation, and the ending will make you cry. Share this video. Turn on notifications. 6 months later, Ngozi stood in the courtyard of the University of Lagos, wearing the green and white academic gown that marked her as a finalist in the Faculty of Science. Her hands trembled as she adjusted the mortarboard on her head. 6 months ago, she'd been a cleaner with no future. Today, she was about to walk across that stage and receive her Bachelor of Science in Computer Science. Mama, Mama. Chikwuti ran toward her, his little legs pumping, his smile so wide it could light up Lagos. At 6 years old, he didn't fully understand what was happening, but he knew his mother was happy, and that was enough. Ngozi scooped him up, spinning him around. You ready to see Mama graduate? Yes. Uncle Chima said you're going to be a computer lady now. Ngozi laughed. Uncle Chima. Her son had adopted Chima Okonkwo as honorary family after the billionaire had personally delivered the scholarship papers to their small room in Ajigunle, had sat on their worn mattress, and had promised Ngozi's elderly mother that he'd take care of her daughter, a promise he'd kept in ways that still made Ngozi cry. Come, baby, let's find Grandma, Ngozi said, setting Chikwuti down. They walked through crowds of families toward the seating area, and there they were, her mother, looking elegant in a new dress, a gift from Chima's wife, Amara, Adan with her husband, and a whole row of people from Okonkwo Industries. Biodun was there, grinning. Chioma, the head of legal, who'd become her mentor. Even some of the other cleaners from the company had come, her former colleagues who'd watched her transformation with awe. But it was the man in the center who made her breath catch. Chima Okonkwo, billionaire CEO, had taken time from his schedule to attend her graduation. I told you I'd be here, he said simply when she approached. You didn't have to, Ngozi said, overwhelmed. Yes, I did. Chima's eyes were serious. 6 months ago, you saved my company. Today, I get to watch you reclaim your future. I wouldn't miss this for anything. The ceremony was beautiful. Names were called alphabetically. Ngozi's heart pounded as they approached the O's. Ngozi Okafor, Bachelor of Science in Computer Science. First class honors. The Okonkwo Industries section exploded with cheers. Ngozi walked across that stage with tears streaming down her face, shook the Vice Chancellor's hand, and received a certificate that represented 6 years of deferred dreams of survival, of refusing to give up even when everything said she should. As she posed for the official photo, she thought of Teo, wished he could see this. Wished he could know that their son would grow up with a mother who was a software engineer, not a cleaner. That the dreams they built together hadn't died with him. They'd just been delayed. After the ceremony, Chima pulled her aside. How does it feel? Surreal, Ngozi admitted. Half of me keeps expecting to wake up in that small room with my cleaning bucket, like this is all a dream. It's not a dream. You earned this. He handed her an envelope. But there is one more thing. Ngozi opened it. Inside was a key and a property deed. Her hands went numb. Sir, what? You're a full employee of Okonkwo Industries now, Chima said, and our employees don't live in one-room apartments in Ajigunle. This is a 3-bedroom house in Magodo, modest but comfortable, safe neighborhood, good schools nearby. I can't accept this, Ngozi whispered, even as her heart screamed the opposite. Yes, you can. It's not a gift. It's an employee benefit. You'll find the details in your contract. He smiled. Besides, I've already moved your things. Your mother and Chikwuti are there now, waiting for you. Ngozi couldn't speak, could barely breathe. A house. A real house with 3 bedrooms. For her mother, for Chikwudi, for her. Thank you, she managed. Thank you doesn't seem like enough, but... Ngozi, Chima interrupted gently. You thank me by being brilliant at your job, by proving that investing in people isn't charity. It's smart business. Dio, she whispered. The house was more than modest. It was beautiful. 2 stories, a small garden, real furniture, an actual kitchen. Ngozi walked through it in a daze, while Chikwudi ran from room to room, shouting with joy, Mama, I have my own room, my own bed. Her mother sat in the living room, crying happy tears. Beta, God is faithful. Your father would be so proud. That night, after Chikwudi had finally exhausted himself and fallen asleep in his new bed, Ngozi sat in the garden with her mother. Do you remember when Papa died? Ngozi asked. When the company went bankrupt and we had nothing? Her mother nodded. I remember thinking we'd never recover. That poverty was our destiny. I thought the same thing when Teo died. Ngozi said, when I dropped out of school, when I started cleaning floors. I thought, this is it. This is my life now. But you never stopped using your brain, her mother said. Even when you were mopping floors, you were still thinking, still observing, still being the brilliant girl I raised. I left that note because I couldn't walk away from a problem, Ngozi admitted. It's like, even though I was invisible, even though nobody saw me as anything more than a cleaner, I couldn't unsee what I'd seen, couldn't unknow what I knew. Her mother took her hand. That's integrity, Beta. That's character. Money can't buy that. Education can't teach that. You have something rare. You use your gift to help others, even when helping costs you something. It almost cost me my job, Ngozi laughed. I thought they'd fire me for touching those documents. But they didn't, because good people recognize good people. Her mother squeezed her hand. Chima Okonkwo could have ignored your note, could have been too proud to listen to a cleaner. But he wasn't, and that tells you something about him, too. Monday morning, Ngozi reported for her first official day as a junior data analyst at Okonkwo Industries. She wore a new suit bought with her first real paycheck, carried a laptop bag company issued, and walked to the front entrance of the tower, not the service entrance she'd used as a cleaner. The security guard saw her and broke into applause. Uncle Joseph, who'd been the first to tell her about Chima looking for her that fateful night, had tears in his eyes. We're proud of you, Ngozi, he said. You show all of us that there's hope, that we're not just what we do, we're who we are. On the 42nd floor, Biodun had set up a workstation for her in the main data analysis hub. Top-of-the-line equipment, dual monitors, access to all company systems. Welcome to the team, he said. We've been waiting for you. The other analysts gathered around, introducing themselves. Some had advanced degrees from foreign universities. Some had worked at Google and Microsoft. All of them treated her as an equal, a colleague, not a former cleaner who'd gotten lucky, because luck had nothing to do with it. She'd spotted an error that saved the company. She'd written flawless code under pressure. She'd completed her degree with first-class honors while working part-time and raising a child. She'd earned her place here. Her first assignment was exactly what Biodun had promised, designing new error detection protocols for the company's documentation systems. The work was challenging, complex, and absolutely thrilling. At lunch, Chima stopped by her desk. How's the first day? He asked. Perfect. Ngozi said honestly, Sir, I keep meaning to ask, why did you really do all this? The scholarship, the house, the job? You could have just given me a reward and moved on. Chima pulled up a chair. You want the truth? I was angry at first. Angry that a cleaner found what my expensive team missed. Angry at myself for almost ignoring your note because of who you were. He paused. But then I realized you reminded me of my father. Your father? He built this company from a single room in Mushin. Everyone told him he was too poor, too uneducated, too small to succeed in tech. But he had vision. He had courage. And he never let other people's opinions define his worth. Chima smiled. When I read your note, the technical language, the precision, the confidence, I thought, This is someone who refuses to be limited by her circumstances. Just like my father. He stood. So I invested in you the way someone invested in my father when he was starting out. Not charity. Smart business. Because talent like yours doesn't come along often. And when it does, you grab it. 6 months turned into a year. Ngozi excelled in her role, eventually being promoted to senior data analyst. Her error detection system saved the company millions and prevented mistakes. She became known as the person who saw what others missed. Chikwudi thrived in his new school, showing the same aptitude for technology his parents had shared. Ngozi's mother's health improved with better nutrition and access to health care. The house in Magodo became a home filled with laughter and hope. Ngozi, she started a mentorship program at the company, specifically for support staff who had hidden talents and deferred dreams, janitors with engineering knowledge, security guards with business degrees, cafeteria workers with artistic gifts. She helped them get scholarships, training, opportunities. She called it the Second Chance Initiative because everyone deserved a second chance. Everyone deserved to be seen. 2 years after that fateful night, when she left a note on a conference room table, Ngozi stood on a stage at a tech conference in Lagos. She'd been invited to speak about data integrity and error detection. Her systems had become industry standard. As she looked out at the audience of engineers, CEOs, and tech professionals, she spotted Chima in the front row, smiling proudly. 2 years ago, she began, I was a night cleaner at Okonkwo Industries. I had a computer science degree 3 months away from completion, but I dropped out when my husband died. I was invisible, poor, forgotten. The audience was silent, attentive. Then one night, I saw an error in some documents, and I had a choice: ignore it, because it wasn't my place to speak up or risk everything to leave a note. She paused. I left a note, and that one act of courage changed my entire life. She told the story: the database error, the all-night coding session, the race to the deadline, Chima's generosity, her transformation. But this story isn't really about me, Ngozi concluded. It's about seeing people, really seeing them. The person cleaning your office might be a genius. The security guard might have revolutionary ideas. The janitor might be the solution you've been searching for. But you'll never know if you don't look, if you don't listen, if you don't value people beyond their job titles. She looked directly at Chima. I'm grateful to Mr. Chima Okonkwo for many things. The scholarship, the house, the job. But most of all, I'm grateful that he saw me. That when a cleaner left him a note about database integrity, he didn't throw it away. He read it. He listened. He looked. The applause was thunderous. After her speech, a young woman approached her, a cafeteria worker from another tech company. Ma, your story inspired me, she said shyly. I dropped out of accounting school, but maybe I could finish. Ngozi smiled and handed her a card. Call me tomorrow. Let's talk about the Second Chance Initiative. That night, Ngozi sat in her garden at home, watching Chikwudi play with his tablet, already showing interest in coding. Her phone buzzed. A message from Chima. Brilliant speech today. Your father-in-law would be proud. Teo would be proud. I'm proud. She typed back, Thank you for seeing me when I was invisible. His response came quickly. You were never invisible, Ngozi. We were just blind. Thank you for opening our eyes. Ngozi looked up at the Lagos sky, at the stars barely visible through the city lights, and smiled. She'd been broken. She'd been buried. She'd been invisible. But she'd risen. She'd been seen. She'd been transformed. And now she was helping others rise, too. Because that's what second chances were for. Not just to save yourself, but to save others. One act of courage at a time. Wow. From cleaner to senior data analyst. A house. Speaking at conferences. And now she's helping others get second chances. If this story touched your heart, smash that like button and subscribe to AfricanTales by Zion. Drop a comment. What's the biggest lesson here? Never judge people by their job. Always speak up when you see something wrong. One act of courage can change everything. Thank you for watching until the end. Share this with someone who needs to hear that their current situation is not their final destination. That hidden talents are still talents. That being invisible doesn't mean being worthless. Check out our next inspiring story. Turn on notifications for more African Tales by Zion.